Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is week 4 of the North American Simrigs Sprint Series, and we're at everybody's favorite track. It is Monza, the Temple of Speed, and I'm sure we all have very fond memories of this circuit. I know I do, especially down to turn 1 where nothing bad ever happens. But it's been quite a day here at the OOR office, as it were. We started off by having a 5.5-hour live stream of the thanks for watching screen. So that was the overlay, the little video that plays in the background, and then the Patreon list just scrolling on through, and then the song we used in the intro. 5.5 hours. And we, you know, trying to figure out, well, what's that all about? You know, no one's live as far as we know, although the OOR account was showing that, yes, it was live. Turns out that Mullick's PC, somehow, we don't know how, was sending the stream to the YouTube channel. And we tried to figure that one out. And then not only that, but every single OR server went down at the exact same time through our server provider because Mullick's, I assume, credit card had gotten hacked and there was a fraudulent charge that came up, so his bank decided that it was a good choice to just kill the card on the spot, and it just so happened to coincide with a payment that needed to be done, couldn't be done because, of course, there was no card, so all the servers went down. This happened all while Mullick was asleep. So, you know, once he got up, he had a fun little scramble to get sorted out. We didn't have the EU race earlier today, unfortunately, because of that server issue. But, of course, we're here with North America, as things have been sorted out. Drivers have had some good time to get prepared for Monza. It is raining, but that, you know, might not hold true for the race. Next 10 minutes, it is going to stop raining. But, well, you know, could carry over into qualifying. Real quick, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we got to give a big thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring the Sprint Series. You know what they're all about. Every little bit of sim racing gear you could think of, they've probably got it in there somewhere, especially if you look hard enough. Serving all of Australia and New Zealand, based out of Melbourne. So if you're a Patreon member, you get 5% off in store. Highly recommend you take advantage of that. And if you're like me and you live in the United States or elsewhere, well, if you send them an email, you'll get something sorted out and hopefully get some hands on their very stellar gear. So thank you again to Simrigs for sponsoring the Sprint Series. But we're here in free practice. It is Golzar on top, that 154.635. And then he has a little bit over 3/4 of a second down to Clifford, who has a 55.4. So only one driver breaking that 54 barrier by quite a margin. And then it's Landry in third, a 55.48 for him. Not too far behind the Lamborghini, but still a little bit back. And then you have Dornelis rounding out the drivers who are less than a second off of fastest time. That's a 55.56. And then it's Ronan Mendino with the 55.75. So he's a little bit over a second back. The prancing horses there, 4 and 5, not high up, but it's the Charging Bull that has the Italian bragging rights right now. The 998 Lambo from Clifford has put on quite a show here in free practice, and then Golzar apparently just sort of picking up where he left off last week. He did win our last race in rather commanding fashion at Coda, just sort of jumped off the line and never really looked back. And then behind him, it was Loverink and Pierce. Golzar started on pole, Loverink P2. It was Dornelis in P3 last time around, but an incident in turn 1 put him right at the back of the field. He fought his way up, and then he picked up a penalty following a pit stop. He was up into P5, but 10 seconds put him down to P7. So a very good recovery drive, of course, would have been a lot better without that penalty. But he just has to sort of work with what he's given, so he'll be looking to bounce back this week. P4 not that far off of the pace here at Monza. And then we look for the Pro-Ams. It was Sanchez, Clifford, and Briscoe, your top 3. And then amateur class, Thompson, Parody, and Dale. So looking through, we don't really see any amateur class drivers. We have to go quite a ways down, actually. It's Dale, Raworth, and Wicks who are your 1, 2, 3 for the amateur class, 25, 26, and 27, respectively. And then up top, it is just dominated by the pros. You can see all those white boxes, black numbers, your pro drivers, and then the black box with the white numbers, your Pro-Am. Only 2 of them in the top 5. Steve Davis actually jumping up there into P number 5. Joining us, of course, from Australia. And to wherever you may be in the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're in Europe, shouldn't you be in bed? If you're here in North America, hopefully your dinner was good or you're just getting ready to sit down. And if you're in the AP region, depending on where you are, how's lunch? Or maybe how's your morning going? I know our Southern Hemisphere friends are getting ready for winter, for summer actually. Up here in the Northern Hemisphere, getting ready for winter. It is. I'm ready. I'm ready for the colder temperatures. You know, nothing but comfy, cozy clothes all day. You get to stay nice and warm, and then you can step outside and it's cold. Start your car up in the morning. You gotta like brush all the snow off, and then you gotta take all the ice off the windshield. It's fun. It's always fun. And then you get all like the little flakes and whatnot on your cuffs of your hoodie, and that gets all wet, and then your morning is kind of ruined. But you carry on. But here in Monza, it is rainy and warm, and we'll see just well, well, what quality in the race looks like. Dornelis actually putting in fastest lap right now, 54.38, so a quarter of a second up from Golzar. It's a very good improvement for the Brazilian. Hayden Harder right now on an improvement run. Same with Tim Brook. 7/10 here. Ooh, a little bit of a slip there out of Lesmo 1. Currently P10. It's a 1:55.907 for the 404 BMW. And a very nice looking livery there. I'm a huge fan of that. But we'll, it's going to be a pretty simple setup for a lot of these drivers. Pretty much no downforce. Because this is, well, you could basically say it's two straight lines connected by a couple of turns, and that's effectively what it is. No inner loop. This track did have that huge bank turn at one point, and they actually raced on it, and then they realized that might not be the best idea. Took it out, but it's still in the game. You actually can see remnants of it. But of course, we don't get that luxury. We have to stick to the current layout. Of course, if you do want to run that older layout, you can go into Assetto Corsa, but we get to the end of free practice here, so just looking at the timetable very, very quickly, it's Dornelis, who's actually fastest in Sector 3, then Golzar Sector 2, Clifford Sector 1. So these drivers deciding that they don't want the sector that corresponds with their position. They're going to let someone else have it. We hop here into qualifying. We'll see who's on top here. And the first one out appears to be Thomas Pierce. So we'll ride on board with him and see what the bar is going to be set at. But we are in a greasy track, so that wet weather does carry over to qualifying. Few laps to maybe clear that last bit of slickness, and then should be seeing some very strong times popping out here. The Aston Martin, one of those, good all-around cars, of course. You can definitely do some work here at Monza if you play your cards right, but of course with all the other cars that are out on track, it's going to be quite the task. You've got McLarens and Ferraris with, the very high, just acceleration, top end speed. They just go. Handling not really a big thing around here, of course. It's all about how quickly you can get up to your max speed and just how high that max speed is. Seeing the background drivers, pretty big gap actually from Pierce down to the next driver. I believe I don't believe that's Brown. Spencer Brown, actually, a new, I believe a new driver here? Does not seem very familiar. I don't remember his car popping up. I could be wrong, though. It's been a hot second. But definitely just keep an eye on him. Pierce weaving down the back straight here, just trying to get some temp in those tires as best he can. Track is now green, so very quickly a solid path has been cleared. So we'll be seeing some pretty good times coming in. It's a question of whether we'll be at optimum by the end of it. Clouds still overhead, no wind, so all the track drawing is reliant on these drivers. So I'd expect at the very least we get a fast track by the end of qualifying. We do have, we have 31 cars on the grid here today. Oh boy. I know it's an organized league and drivers know what is expected, but this is Monza. This is the circuit where all sorts of chaos can unfold, especially down into turn 1, so we'll see how well people can manage, and I'm sure the race directors are going to go in there and say, hey guys, listen, here's the plan, here's what's going to happen, here's how you're going to do it. And hopefully we can get through turn 1 without a safety car. And now that I just said the words, we're probably going to get one. So my apologies in advance to everybody on the grid, unless you manage to get through in one piece or you're behind it. But best of luck. Gotta be on your side. We should take a quick second, of course. So with the next race in the season, so after we've had obviously our server issues, we're gonna have to figure out how scheduling is gonna work. We don't really know, but what we do know is that for North America, we are going to be having a bye week next week for Thanksgiving for us here in the States. We're not going to be racing because the time this race goes live, let's be real, we're probably filled with food and ready to go to bed. So instead of forcing these drivers to do that, we're going to take the next week off. And then I believe after that it is going to be the Silverstone race. The extended format race, an hour and a half. So that's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. And as we'll take that into account, it's Thomas Pierce who does cross the line. So it's a 149.755. And that's immediately bested by Steele with the 49.60. And then the rest of everybody sort of just getting through. Love ranked at 49.49. So we are getting close to the 48s as Gulzar puts in that 49.41. Already laying claim to that pole position. He knows how good of a driver is. He knows what he can do when he gets the throttle down. And he is just raring to go. And Fernandez, a very solid lap there. The number 88, a 49.360. 500th faster than Gulzar, of course. Tires, brakes still getting warmed up. The track still being cleared of moisture. So these times will be coming down as this qualifying session progresses. Thomas Pierce, though, on an improvement half a second. This would give him provisional pole, but he has to keep in mind everybody else behind him also on an improvement. The drivers coming out of the pits now. Flomger and Graham starting to get some outlaps going. Lamelin into the pits probably for some setup adjustment. Other than that, everybody out already on another lap or getting ready to start their first flying lap. Here, Dornelis, the 49.207. We are really starting to push just how fast these cars can go. So even with the half second, Pierce is going to get agonizingly close. Less than about 500ths, depending on how well he gets this last turn. So he crosses the line, and it is provisional pole. 49.2. 007 for Dornelis. Fortunately, he's not an MI6 agent. He's P2 at the moment. As we look back, he is even with himself. Has not really gotten on an improvement. Loverink, though, the 49.107. Almost another 007 to Gulzar, but it's 008. So these drivers really just getting things going here already. Not wasting any time at all. We look here, Brian Rasco down in P19 at the moment, a 150.835 for him. Almost a second up on his personal best here. If he can get this together, it's actually put him pretty high up, almost into the top 10. As he did lose about a second, or about a tenth there going through Ascari. So through the Parabolica in the boat, I mean, he's got to really work this Bentley. It's not the fastest thing, I can tell you that much. So he is going to definitely have to work for it. So he comes out of the final corner here across the line. And that'll be P10 just barely eking Thompson out of that spot. And as I say, that Carpenter tells me that, or no, sorry, not Carpenter. Baba Let's Go tells me that it's time for me to shut up because he's just put in a time that's good enough to push Brown out of the top 10. Or Rasco out of the top 10. It goes to top 12, actually. Harder and Carpenter are taking over 9 and 10. Clifford in 7. Steele, Fernandez, Dornelis, Pierce, Gulzar, Loverink. That's your 7 through 1 running. No improvements yet, although Gulzar is on quite the lap here. 4 tenths. So he comes out of Ascari down the back straight. If he can hook up Parabolica quite well, this will absolutely be provisional pole and should be another driver into the 48s. Pierce is the only one into the 48s, that 48.94. It's barely enough. And then Loverink a little too far back, but Gulzar here. Half a second up across the line he goes, and it's going to be pole position of 48.63. 3 tenths, leapfrogging Pierce there. Loverink getting pushed down to P3, Dornelis to 4, and Fernandez to 5. So it looks like whatever setup he has is working out beautifully. Kevin Parody here. Tortoise definitely not as quick as he would like. P26 of 51.37. Although he is a second and then some up on himself. So this could maybe be a 49 for the Canadian if he can really find that last little bit of pace. He lost about a tenth out of Ascari, so a lot of drivers losing that tenth out of the chicane. But down to Parabolica he goes. Wonder if he can pick up some more pace here as he powers to the outside as much as he dares, especially in these conditions, and how easy it is to go wide at Parabolica. We see it all the time. So across the line, he's 1.3 up, P12. That's a massive improvement of 50.03 for him. Really making a statement. He's the highest rated of all the amateur class drivers. The next one down is Dale in P28. So 16 seconds is the, or sorry, 16 places rather, is the gap. It's Raworth now that overtakes that 28th position. But what a run by Parity. Just out of nowhere. That's a huge improvement. Incredible placement for him as well. We sit here with Braden Thompson as he comes out of Ascari as well. Down the back straight. 2/10 up. Looking at a 49, an upper 49. This may put him just outside of the top 10. But it could push Parity down another position, or Davis. Or possibly both, depending on how well the final corner is. I don't know if he got it good enough. He gets pushed down to 17th because someone improves. It's P10, or P11 rather. And now it's to 12. So, actually the same time as Boboletsko's. Because Mercedes driver got the time first, I'm fairly certain it'll give him the advantage, which it does, so he stays P11. And that's only 3 thousandths behind McAnulty in P10. The Aston Martin driver currently weaving. Got someone parked up on the Parabolica here. And they disappear like Houdini's behind the wheel. Oh, McAnulty pushed down to P11. He's not improving. He's on an outlap, so this time will not count. Golzar has pushed his PB even lower, a 48.63. 3/10 up from Pierce, who's got a 48.94 still. So two drivers who have broken down that 49 barrier. Everyone else sort of getting very close, and then as you dip down, it gets a little bit further away. But some very good improvements out of all of these drivers. One of them, Eduardo Sanchez, P23. With that 150.45 is 3/10, now 4/10 up actually. So he's definitely going to be running a very low force, a very low downforce setup rather, excuse me, for his McLaren. Does cross the line, jumps up to P17. That's a 49.94 for him. We'll be looking to improve. We've got a couple more laps coming through here for all of these drivers. John Steele, very good placement for him, P7. 3 of the Ferraris here on home turf in that top 10. Of course, he'd like to maybe get around Fernandez and make it a 3-pony show in that top 5. You could probably even throw in Golzar because the Porsche emblem has a horse on it, but I don't think we will. Right now it's all about the Italian manufacturers here at home. So around Parabolica's 3/10. I don't know if this will be enough. It could possibly. He's got 4/10 now. This could be someone else in the 48s here. He's getting a little bit of a toe, and he puts it into P2. Right around Pierce. He's got 5 thousandths to work with over Pierce. And then Landry splitting Lovrink and Dornelis there. And immediately taken back by Dornelis. So 3 of the top 5 drivers are Ferraris. Look him in, Brad. Yeah, the Coliseum of Catastrophe. I wonder why you would ever call it that. So I dropped my pen. I don't even know where it went. Oh, there it is. Found it. It was pretty good qualifying so far from everybody. Very interesting to see Parity. You can see him. He was way up in P12, pushed down to P20, so despite a very good improvement, it was only temporary. So he is booted back down into these lower rungs. Still the highest rated amateur class driver ahead of Raworth. Hayden Harder on screen now. He's getting ready to finish up another lap here, 4/10. So this could put him rather high, actually, on the grid. Golzar, I think somebody just got moved around. Was it John Steele? Did John Steele just best somebody harder up into P6? What is going on? So it's Golzar, Steele, Pierce, your top three. Dornelis, Lovering, Harder, Landry, Fernandez, Clifford, and Flomger top 10. So Clifford also getting booted down right now. He was very commanding P2 earlier on, if I remember correctly, and now he's just barely in the top 10, and now very much barely in the top 10 as Fernandez Lamelin actually goes up into 4th, so Lamelin waiting right towards the end to actually do a damn fine lap. Still not enough for pole position. You got 3 drivers who got at least 3/10 between themselves and Golzar. Dornelis in the pits, I think he's done for this qualifying session. He'll gladly take what he's got. Boboletsgos around Parabolica on an improvement, 4/10 as he crosses the line here in P15. He's going to just jump up a couple positions to P13. He does have time for another lap, but he's going to opt to call it a day there. He thinks he's done. Steve Davis right now, P22, has fallen quite a lot in these laps. You remember Davis during the Spa race almost made it past that first lap calamity in the first race of that super sprint. It just got tagged and everyone else sort of followed suit behind him. The checkered flag is coming out here, so drivers who have yet to cross the line, this is it. If you're on an improvement, keep it going. Brian Rasco in P20 at the last moment, but I don't know for how long he's going to be sitting there, of course. Davis on an improvement. As he crosses the line, that's going to be P16 for the Aussie. Very good job from him. Golzar is out. He's not going to get another chance, although he is improving already, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. Clifford as well as out there. Loverink in the pits. Fernandez in the pits. Dornelis in the pits. And Harder as well. So, of those 4, the rest of the top 10 still out on track. And one of them, who's actually got quite the improvement right now, Michael Landry, 3/10, will put him into the 48s. It won't be enough for pole position, although he is teetering that line between a 0.3 and a 0.4 improvement. Trying everything he can. Powers to the line in P9 at the moment. It's P2. It's a 10th behind Golzar. It's not enough to get pole position, but he is certainly going to be happy with that P2. Braden Thompson here, P15 for him on an improvement. Just ahead of him, I believe that's McAnulty. Yes, it is. P18 for the Aston Martin. As he comes across the line, he's going to go up to P15, right over Braden Thompson, although Thompson could pick up that P15 again, and he will not, unfortunately. Has to settle for P16, and ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to do it. So it's Golzar on pole by a good bit, and then Landry and Pierce joining him in the in those top 3 positions. And then Clifford, Loverink, Lamelin, Steele, Fernandez, Dornelis, Harder in that top 10. We'll get ready. Cars on the grid. And of course, we'll take our little look through the grid, as we always do. 37 incidents for the stewards to investigate, and they sit at drinking hard. Yeah, you know what? I did hear about that. I did hear about the very fun, adventurous time that our stewards were given by our drivers in the AP split. Of course, the our condolences, of course, for them. They do so much work, and oh, this is what happens. You get Monza, and it's pretty much chaos from there on out. But a very solid qualifying for Golzar. Finds himself on pole position. It's Landry and then Pierce. Clifford in those next 3 positions. Third row, it's going to be Loverink and Lamelin. Behind them, it's Steele and Fernandez. Fernandez besting his compatriot Dornelis there, who's down in P9, and then it's Harder to round out the top 10. And you're looking at Brooke, Flomger, Carpenter, Boboletsgos, McAnulty, Thompson, Davis, Medina, Brown, Wilson, the next 10 drivers. And it's Friza, Sanchez, Rasco, Parody, Dag. I believe Lutkus down there as well. Our broadcast controller not going as far as I would have liked. Have to just double check everything. But these drivers are ready to go here. It's going to be quite chaotic, I think. It is Monza after all. Anything can happen, nothing is set in stone. And of course we have our Simrigs safety car. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And a rather sleek looking livery here for McAnulty to celebrate Halloween. It's a little late now, of course, but I can always respect a little bit of spooky spirits any time of the year. Oh, it's actually Skeptora, excuse me. I'm trying to remember, I believe he may have done an event with McAnulty. But 20 seconds to go. Drivers have gotten the call to hit drive. They failed to do so in 30 seconds. Well, they're going to be starting from the pit lane. But I guess the question becomes, is it actually beneficial to start in the pit lane at Monza? I don't know. I did see the bit of a change that we've also had. Thank you for reminding me, Brad. We've had a bit of a change to how things are done in terms of dive bombs and challenges, if you will. Drivers are going to be scrutinized a little bit harder on that, because we've had some issues, more or less, in the past of dive bombs being a little bit reckless. You know, we always like a good dive bomb, but some of these drivers are getting a little too ambitious, a little too comfortable with feeling that they might be able to get away with it, so we've had to crack down on that a little bit. Hopefully, we can have a pretty clean race, especially here at the Turn 1 turmoil that everybody is all too familiar with. I mean, heck, this circuit is literally the game's tutorial level. If you've never played the tutorial of this game, I'd be surprised. But, yeah, when you first boot up the game, this is the first track they put you on, because they know that you probably cannot handle anything else just yet. I don't think we'll be seeing any of the Chastain wall. I believe it was Chastain that rode the wall at Martinsville, which, on one hand, the fact that it took them that long to try it is kind of impressive, but it's also, on the other hand, very cool that it happened and it worked out. So, of course, shout-outs to that, and we can talk about the whole playoff format in NASCAR until the cows come home, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this race right here. The clouds still overhead. The track is fast, so that surface condition carrying over. Doesn't seem to be any clearing of the clouds or any moisture anytime soon, at least for the next 30 minutes. Anything can change. There's no wind, so those clouds probably just strolling on through. A nice little Sunday walk with the safety car putting the throttle down. You can see the speed there, the Chevrolet. But drivers lining up here 2 by 2 for the start of this hour-long race. A mandatory pit stop in this race at some point. After 5 minutes, that pit window will open. Then and only then will those pit stops count. Anything before that is pointless, and anything after that, well, you've had all race to take a pit stop, but we'll give you a penalty instead. Welcoming in Cody as well. Welcome to the broadcast. Just in time for the start of this race at the Temple of Speed, or the Coliseum of Catastrophe, whatever you may call it. It's Monza, the circuit we've all raced on a little too much, I think, and I'm sure these drivers maybe not wanting to race at a track they've spent so much time on, looking for something new. But of course, we're going to have to wait till next week to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, up to the line. Gulzar on pole. Landry, Pierce, Clifford, Lamelin, your top 5. Lovering, Steele, Fernandez, Dornelis, Harder, your top 10. And then everybody else following in behind them. And as we crawl to the start line, get ready for chaos. Get ready for carnage. It's green, green, green at Monza. We've got some really good jumps there in the background. Harder getting an amazing jump off the line. We've got 3 wide here coming down the front straight. Gulzar has bolted right now as we head down into the first turn, into the chicane. It's starting to squeeze up a little bit. These drivers getting a little nervous. It's going to be Pierce who's late on the brakes. He's actually going to outbrake himself. Everybody really standing on that brake pedal to get through that first turn, and they do very nicely. Pierce rejoining here. Looks like P4, maybe 5. Right now it's Clifford having to deal with Harder, who's got an amazing jump, and he's trying to pick where he's going to go. We've got a yellow flag in the background. I'm not sure what that's all about. And are we slowing down? We are. We have a safety car. We have a safety car already. You can color me any shade of surprised you like, but let's be real, I'm not. So the safety car getting deployed to the scene. Looks like the little foam boards there were taken care of without much of anything. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to look and see what happened, because we don't quite know. So we're going to find our heli cam. We could use the broadcast controller, too much work. So it was probably a bit further back. So we're gonna see. Oh, well, that's okay. So I think I see the problem. There are cars that are turned in an unproductive angle. Let's look at this just from the. This is what Ronan Mendina sees. So we're gonna pull it back a little bit. So he is very gentle on the throttle on the application. So it looks like, oh boy, and it all just kicks off. Shout out! Wow, Mendina, great job there, not getting caught up in that. So I believe that may have been Brown that maybe was a bit. Did something that they probably shouldn't have. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we also had 4 wide, I think, for a moment. So we see on the inside the BMW of, not Davis, I believe that's Thompson? No, that's not Thompson. Is that Davis? That can't be Davis. One of the BMWs. Oh, it's Brooke, actually. So Brooke on the right there. So Brown looks for a move and then has to, I think, maybe over braked, and then bumped into the Bentley of Rasco, and then everybody else came through and just completely bodied each other. You can see, I believe that was Dave Hasser just squeezing his way through. All right, well, there it is. And looks like just the right amount of time has passed because safety cars picked everybody up, so good job us. But what a start. Jansen, welcome in. Couldn't make the race. Hey, you know what? You might have had the right call there, bud. By not racing, you've avoided turn 1. But welcome in, welcome in. Can't park there. No, you cannot park on the front straight of Monza, especially on lap 1. We have picked up the field. It's Rasco in the pits. We saw Frizza as well early on. Oh man, I had faith. I really did. I really had faith, but that doesn't happen. It is Monza, and surprisingly, it wasn't sort of the front of the pack. It wasn't even turn 1. We didn't even get to turn 1 before everybody decided to spin out and die. It's a straight line, and you'd think, straight line, handle it, no problem. We all drive on a straight line every day when we go out at some point on the road. It's just a straight shot. And you'd think it'd be simple, but at race speeds, it's quite difficult. There's Frizza unlapping himself. So he'll be joining up at the back of the pack there. 74 Pro-Am driver relegated to 32nd. It's a huge loss for him. Dave Hasser as well in 26. Skeptor Sanchez 21 and 20. You can see just at race speeds, it's the slightest miscalculation, and that's it. A little heavy on the brakes there for Brown. Not even heavy, just a tap and a turn at the wrong time. Put him into the side of Rasco, and, well, at that point, it's sort of just every man for himself. agree with you, Brad. We should just accept that it's Monza. Carnage is going to happen. So I'm certain that the safety car will be out, flashing the headlights. Hello, little safety car. In fact, with the Simrigs safety car, I want to take a moment and thank Simrigs again for sponsoring our Sprint Series. Based out of Melbourne, they've got every single bit of sim racing gear your heart could desire. And, well, if you want to get some, and you're our Patreon member, you get 5% off in store. Definitely take advantage of that. Australia and New Zealand, of course, is their main market. And if you're outside of that, you can send them an email and get that sorted out. Hopefully get some good gear out of it. Again, thank you to Simrigs, of course, for sponsoring this Sprint Series season. As we continue on for at least another lap, we could most likely see it coming in this lap, although we may stay out a little bit longer. What a start we had. Normally when you get this Monza turn 1 chaos, it's because somebody either brakes too late, forgets to brake, or, quote, forgets to brake. And that just sort of gets everybody else, and that's usually up at the front, the drivers that suffer the most. But this was mid-pack. This is a mid-pack incident. Also, just the launch from Harder. I mean, he got off the line absolutely perfectly. Jumped a few positions, was running up into P5. And currently, he is sitting down in P7. So, very good start from him. Golzar, of course, took that first lap, or took that pole position and just bolted like he normally does. Loverink having to sort of play catch-up along with Landry Steele. Dornelis down into P13. I'm not quite sure what happened there, because he was starting quite a ways up in the top 5, so something must have happened. Also, of course, just a reminder that these cars are not ghosted. This game does not have a built-in safety car like iRacing does, so our safety cars are manual, and the game doesn't know that, so these drivers have to be extra careful to avoid contact. Safety car has left the field, so we are going to be getting a restart here. It'll be Golzar to lead them off the line. These drivers need to make sure that they don't pass the car in front of them until the start-finish line, unless they want to get a penalty. But it's all going to be on Golzar. So he has control of the field. He can choose when to go. He's really holding off on this. He knows Loverink's going to go for it, and there it is. The power is down. He's trying to get away as best he can, as he did before, but we are green once again here at Monza. It is Golzar, Loverink, Landry, Steele, Pierce your top 5, Clifford, Harder, Lameland, Blabaletscos, Fernandez, the next 5 down. And you can see just how much speed Golzar is getting out of this Porsche, as he is already sending it down the front straight. Dornelis into the pit lane. Loverink a little too far back to go for a move. We see some door-to-door. There's Harder on the inside of Lameland, looking for that P7. He's going to send it down the inside. He is not going to get it to stick, though. So Lameland's going to stay ahead, actually, as we head through towards Curva Grande here. It is Golzar just out of town. You can see the gap already starting to build. John Steele up into P4 for him. So down to the next chicane. Drivers starting to get a little bit. Ooh, it was almost a love tap there from Landry on the back of Lovering. Maybe just stay on there, and we do see Lameland going around. I think that was Harder that spun him, and it might have been, yeah, so Lameland getting a horrible, horrible gift from Harder, and that is definitely going to hurt him. No safety car. A couple drivers going wide here at Lesmo 1, trying to push out as much as they can. And you can see, let's look out the front here of Lovering. You can see just how much Golzar has already pulled away. He's got a second or so. Oh, it's looking about 2.7 actually, depending on the timing sheet, or 1.7, depending on what we use. But Golzar really just using that Porsche, not really known for its straight line speed. The Ferrari getting embarrassed right now as Landry in the slipstream. We have Steele and Pierce, actually. Pierce looking to make a move right now as we head down towards Parabolica on the inside. It is going to be Steele defending that position as best he can. Pierce maybe going to try to get a better drive out of the corner around the outside. It does a little bit of a crisscross and ducks back into the slipstream. Is going to pull out to the side here. Is there going to be enough momentum to carry him forward and around the number 29 Ferrari? I'm not too certain. Clifford there in the background also benefiting from the slipstream, trying to also make a move on the inside, though. Steele is going to defend this corner. Pierce maybe trying to make it work around the outside. He's not going to have the optimum line through the first corner. He does have it for the second, but it is going to be a little bit heavy on the brakes there for the Aston Martin. But this argument is not over yet. You can see Clifford, though. He is still waiting. He knows he can get 2 for 1 if he plays his cards right. This is great stuff here from Steele and Pierce to keep this P4 battle going as Golzar pulls away. Lovefrank's starting to get a bit of a gap now to Landry. Pierce slotting back behind the Ferrari once more. But he is hungry for that P4 position. Steele, though, getting a much better exit there out of the chicane, so maintains an advantage into Lesmo 1, running it as far wide as he can. We're getting ready for the second one. Ooh, a little bit of a wiggle there. Almost catches him off guard. Same with Landry, I think it was. And now Pierce has a better exit, so with this slipstream, he is going to be pulling alongside here as we get ready to go into the Ascari chicane. Under the bridge they go, door to door. And who is going to be the last of the late breakers into the chicane? Pierce using that inside line and is going to overtake for position number 4. And that pushes Steele back into the waiting horns of Clifford as both of them actually run wide right there. An amazing battle just kept going. And it seems that's what Pierce needed, because now he's starting to build a bit of a gap here. We've got a little bit of action right now. We have, it appears to be, I think, Dornelis maybe, Rhoda Medina, I don't know. We've got some, maybe blue flags going as we see Graham there with Parity side by side down into Parabolica. On the inside is the Mercedes, outside's BMW. Parity just going to have to surrender that position, not even going to try it. But down the inside there, you do see number 97, that's Ronan Medina, who finds himself in a very odd scenario, and behind him is Sam Raworth actually in the Ferrari. So Parity pulling around Ronan Medina. Medina will have the slipstream down this front straight. You see Rasco and Hasser there as well. It's almost 3 wide there for a second. Down to turn 1 we go. Parity not quite looking on the inside, is going to bump it with Raworth and Medina, both Ferraris getting knocked around there by the Tortoise, and Rasco's actually going to benefit and move right around Raworth. That's going to pull Hasser in closer as well. Same with Dale. So a little bit of chaos here in the background. Jumping up, Tim Brook in P12, having to defend from his fellow BMW Davis. The battle for P12 and P13 right now. Behind them, it's going to be Wilson, Sanchez, and Thompson. It's a little wide there for Brook. Does not get the best line. He lost a bit of speed. And we actually see just up ahead, it's Austin Carpenter with the slipstream pulling out alongside McAnulty. So we head towards the Ascari chicane. He does have that inside line, but he's not quite far enough ahead, but he is just going to really plant that on the apex. It's door to door here. This is great stuff. And it is going to be Carpenter who does win this little duel, but it's not over quite yet. Doesn't get the best exit. And now it's McAnulty on offense. They are just perfectly aligned right now. Side by side here. Again, the inside line for Carpenter, knowing he could possibly get a better exit. McAnulty really throwing this one around the outside and does retake the position. So holding on to P10 here as we head into the next lap here. Lap number 6 here at Monza. Had quite the chaotic start, but after that, these drivers have managed to get things together. John Steele has Clifford on the inside of turn 1, but on the outside, and that's pulling harder and closer. This is P5 right now that we're going to be battling for. Clifford tried earlier to get maybe a P3, and it didn't quite pan out. He's getting a little bit of a push there from Harder. A little bit of bump drafting here as we head down once more into the chicane. The inside line for Clifford. Is he going to be later on the brakes? It looks like he is not going to, actually. Going to slot in again behind Steele. Harder as well, just having to settle. And then Fernandez and Flomger also just getting their own little battle going right now. Those are still in the lead, of course. Lovefrank and Landry holding position where they have been. We've got Dave Hasser right now starting to lose a position. A little bump there on the Rasco. It's the big old Bentley, but you can push her around. She's not going to move at all. We jump up a little bit. You can see McAnulty. He's got a little entourage of Carpenter, Brook, and Davis behind him. I'm certain he doesn't want that. Brook pulling to the outside. Thought he had enough momentum, but just has to get right back in behind the McLaren. Doesn't have the speed he thought he did. Down into Ascari, going right over the bumps as best they can. Try to not unsettle the car, especially the McLaren. Very sensitive to some of these bumps and will absolutely launch you. And a slipstream for Brook. Is he going to be able to redress this? I don't think he is. So we go down to Parabolica. Oh, it looks like he missed his break point. That's actually going to give Davis a chance to catch right up. And it's Brook who's just slipping and sliding all over the place. It's an optimum track, so I don't know where the lack of grip is coming from. But we head onto the front straight here once more. The two BMWs just about door to door here. Brook barely a car length ahead, and looks like Davis maybe going to send it down the inside here into turn one. No, he'll think better of it. And Thomas Pierce right now is dealing, I believe, with some back markerage. So he's got to get around that because he's got Steele, Clifford. Oh, Clifford's gotten around Steele. And this may be Harder also getting around Steele. So we head into the chicane. Harder, no. Harder is not going to go for it. When he runs a bit wide there onto the gravel, so he is going to scrub off some of that exit speed. But not really enough to make it a problem. Just up ahead we see some drivers going a bit wide. So everybody really just all over the place. It's Michael Landry, in fact, who had a little bit of an issue. I don't think Clifford's really close enough at all. He might get a little close as Clifford, oh, Clifford not watching where he's going, goes right into the wall. Perhaps distracted by one of the many fans trackside. No damage on that Lamborghini, thankfully, able to carry on. That looked scary. I thought for a moment it might have had a little bit of a disconnect, but it appears, though, that wasn't the case. Flomger starting to really feel the pressure right now. It's Pierce behind. Pierce with the fastest lap, actually. That is going to be a 48.54. So despite the lead that Gulzar, and as I said, that Gulzar takes it with a 48.53. 53.2. So Gulzar definitely doing work here. This front 8 really doing well. And there's from Pierce down to, or sorry, front 9, and then from Pierce to McAnulty is quite a margin. Looking at several seconds. These guys, Braden Thompson going into the pit lane. Not quite certain what that's all about. Maybe damage, maybe tires. Who knows? We're going to carry on. Speaking of McAnulty, it's got Carpenter right back on him again. So despite getting a bit of a gap, it hasn't really mattered. But what has mattered is Carpenter getting away from Brook quite well, despite some earlier mistakes. As started to really drive McLaren, hunting down McAnulty. Last lap for the Aston was a 49.24. For the McLaren, it was a 49.01. So 0.2 is the gap right now on those lap times. Wilson Fernandez is up here in P number 7. Looks like also getting around some back markers. Sometimes hard to tell with these with the broadcast controller if it's actually a possible overtake or just a back marker. We do see Thompson, Hasser into the pits, Wilson, Mendina, Babaletskos, and Brown serving their first and hopefully only pit stop of the race. Sam Raworth right now, highest rated of the amateur class. We do have a yellow flag out. That's Ronan Mendina. Looks like maybe some backmarker shenanigans getting out of the way. It's always difficult sometimes to time your overtakes. Oh, and Tim Brook has actually taken advantage of this and has gotten around Carpenter, so maybe Ronan Mendina held up the 883 McLaren, and that gave Brook a chance to jump on the opportunity, and he's absolutely been happy to do that. Yeah, 0.2 gap, so definitely, or no, sorry. It's over a second, so yeah, Carpenter probably getting held up there by a back marker is not too pleased. Very late on the brakes there. Trying to gain what ground he can. But it's not going to be much. It's McAnulty really struggling to pull away now. He struggled to get around, and right now we see Tadas Lutkis and Lamelin here down into turn 1. Lutkis just going to back out of this one. Not going to go for it. Lives to fight another day. Knows that he's going to get Lamelin back. Maybe on pit stops. Maybe on the road. And just behind them, it is Roberth and Parity carrying on their little duel. You see some front end damage there on Lamelin's BMW. Possibly for what happened in lap numero uno. But things have started to settle down. We've got some very solid gaps going. Very consistent racing. John Steele with Hayden Harder just behind him. Slipstream pulling out to the side here. Harder maybe looking for a move down into the Ascari chicane. Thought better of it. Realize it's not the place to make a move. If anywhere you're going to make a move, make a pass with the Slipstream, it's going to be here on the back straight. And if you're not here, well, you got another straight just after it. If you go around a nice long right-hander. Forward flat, what did you miss? No safety car. Thankfully. Harder, they're looking for a move down the inside there. Just, it's not working out. He's not close enough. He's going to try to get a better drive here out of the corner, using a wider line to try to carry more speed. And he is now right on the bumper of Steele. Steele going to just stick to the racing line. He knows that Harder is going to have that inside line into the first corner, but it'll be the outside line in the subsequent corner. Door-to-door here through turn one, and Steele playing that one perfectly. Knew exactly what he had to do to keep Harder behind. Fernandez actually going to pull in a bit closer. Behind them is Flomger, who is going to be looking for a piece of action, lurking in the shadows right now. As Harder just barely alongside, and could he see another move down the inside here? I'm not too certain. He may go for it. He does. He is going to make this move stick. A beautiful overtake there for the McLaren to jump up into P5, and that has really rained on Steele's parade, as Fernandez now looking to maybe get a piece of the action as well. Rasco picking up a 5-second penalty. Not quite sure what that was for. Hopefully not the lap 1 incident, because he was not the perpetrator. That was Brown, I believe, who was at fault for that one, but that's neither here nor there. Right now, what is here is the fact that Harder's starting to pull away, so John Steele, despite everything, was really holding him up. And now that he's gotten around, he can really start to make a gap as best he can. There will be a slipstream, though, for Steele, so he can at least stay in front of Fernandez for the time being. Fernandez really driving those gear shifts as best he can. Ooh, almost into the back, and then actually a little bit of a unintentional late break might give him what he needs. He does go into the side there of Steele. A little squirrely there for the Ferrari. Fernandez looking to lock it in here on the inside line. Steele going to have to do it all over again, defending from the outside, but inside for turn 2. And here's Flomger actually getting into the mix. We see 3 wide here down into turn 1. Who is going to back out? Who is going to be brave? They're all going to break it rough at the same time. Flomger really sending that one down the inside. He does not get around Steele, but he continues the door-to-door battle, and Pierce also picking up a little bit of scraps here as Fernandez gets away the best. Flomger door-to-door here with Fernandez. Pierce in the background looking to see what he can maybe grab as he also goes door-to-door. So Flomger getting around Steele. Steele on the inside, just left of screen, and Pierce deciding to stay P9. So in just a lap, Steele losing 2 positions. Actually, sorry, 3 positions, because Harder got around him. It's not been the best race so far for him. We see somebody going wide up ahead. The dirt kicked up. We got Graham into the pits. Things you can see the gap. Harder just, Steele was holding Harder up for so long, just got around him, and that was it. Has not looked back. And Steele is really struggling to find pace right now. Lower and lower he drops down the grid. As this race carries on, could potentially see another position lost here, as Pierce is sitting in that slipstream. Pierce maybe thinking about move down to turn 1. Oh, he might have gotten a better exit. Yes, he does. So Pierce already on the attack, and deja vu. John Steele has been in this place before, and the place is on the racing line here down the front straight to try to defend turn 2 on the inside. And it appears as though this chapter of the book is not going to be written the exact same way. Pierce a little later on the brakes, but decides that is not the move he wants to go for. Just going to bide his time and wait. He knows he doesn't have to make a move now. He's going to make one later at some point. Eduardo Sanchez here doing battle with his teammate, or I guess his car mate, Scaptura there. P15. Two very good looking liveries, although the Weeb squad, I don't know about that one. And Look Kiss as well, dealing with Rasco. Now with Rasco's 5-second penalty, that's going to get added on to his pit stop. Oh, hold on, we've got Sam Raworth letting a faster driver through. I believe that's Brown going through, so probably calling out, asking if it's okay. Brown asking if it's okay to unlap themselves, and race director Raworth and Parody probably agreeing, saying, yeah, sure, go for it, you're a fast driver. We're not going to hold you up, we're going to do our own battle. You can see Brown, once he's gone around, I mean, he's gone. No chance. Yeah, Spencer Brown, new driver here, so he's going to make a charge back. Raworth still dealing with Parody, though, has not been able to shake him as much as he tries. Speaking of shaking, right now, John Steele shaking a little bit as he's unable to get this bright green Aston Martin out of his rearview mirror. Pierce actually picking up a 5-second penalty. Let's see what this is for, if we can find it. Oh, so this might have been it's causing a collision on lap 8. I don't think that was the one onto Lamelin. I'm very certain that was Harder who copped a penalty. Speaking of Harder has lost some ground now to Fernandez, who's done an amazing job catching up. The gap was quite massive, but it doesn't matter. Fernandez can overcome it. He's slowly been reeling in Harder lap after lap. Last lap for Harder was a 49.63 and then a 48.53 for Fernandez. Wondering if maybe that was a back marker or a bit of a mistake. And we do see Graham up ahead, so it may have been back marker or something. I'm not quite certain. You can see Harder and Fernandez really pushing it, and now we've got this little train of cars starting to form. Harder, Fernandez, Flomger, Steele, and Pierce. Potentially a 5-way battle for P number 5. And then beyond that is McAnulty and Brook still having a bit of a dispute over who gets to have that P10 position. This race is really seems to have moments of calm, and then drivers getting pretty close to each other, maybe for a move. That's sort of just falling back into their own little place. McAnulty, oh, we've got Brook going a bit wide, missing his brake point by quite a margin, and that's going to bring Carpenter up and down the inside. No, looks like not actually close enough for the move, although with this slipstream, could potentially see an overtake. It's Pierce into the pits here just about halfway through this race. 5 seconds added on, so if he can keep his nose clean for the rest of the race, that is going to be perfect for him. Carpenter, despite the top end of that McLaren, not able to get around the Beamer. So Brook holding on to that final top 10 position for the time being. Scaptura appears to have gotten around Sanchez at some point earlier on. So P13 going to be looking to close in on Davis there up in P12. Last lap for Davis, take a look, is a 49.58. Scaptura, 48.76. So despite doing a little bit of battle there with Sanchez, has lapped this circuit almost a full second faster than Davis has. I mean, he is really just throwing this thing around as best he can, trying to pick up all the time he can. Kevin Parody into the pits as well. Pierce on his way out. So we hop back up to Harder and company. We do see a back marker sort of splitting up this pack a little bit. Not quite certain who that is. But Harder really doing everything he can to try and get Fernandez off his tail, but it just doesn't seem to be working. And as we head on to the front straight, that slipstream going to come into effect. Harder is on the inside, thinking maybe he can get a benefit out of that first turn inside line and carry that all the way into turn 2. But with the inside line being turn 2's specialty, it could be Fernandez that gets it. Down the inside goes the BMW. Out of the corner they both go. It's still door-to-door. Flomger running a bit wide there, trying to get as much time as he can. It looks like Harder may have gotten a slightly better exit, sticking to that inside line. And once again, he'll be on the outside for this next turn, but we'll have the inside following it. Steele, McAnulty, Lamelin into the pit lane. Down the inside, could it be Fernandez going for a move? No, he will not. Does not have the same sort of speed. And just has to fall back into line. Flomger a lot closer than Fernandez remembers. It has been a very good battle going on. Clifford, fastest lap of 48.0 for this guy. Has been lapping this circuit like an absolute animal. Last lap was a 48.5. Considering his opponent Loverink only a 10th faster, and then Golzar is 3/10 down on Clifford. So Clifford finding a really good setup here at Monza for the Lamborghini. Golzar has a huge gap, but that is coming down slowly but surely. What's also potentially going to be going down slowly but surely is Hayden Harder's advantage over Fernandez. As Fernandez got very, very close there. Clifford opting to go for the pits. Harder into the pits. So he is ready to get some fresh rubber onto that car. Right now, Fernandez and Flomger door-to-door here. Down the front straight. On the inside, it's the Mercedes. On the outside, it's the BMW. Fernandez maybe going to opt for that turn 2 inside line for an advantage. There they go. Door-to-door here. Through 1, through 2. See, guys, you can get through turn 1 cleanly. There's your example right there. Job well done, but the battle continues. This argument's not over quite yet. Flomger on the inside, and we saw Fernandez on the outside last lap with Harder having to back out, did not have the best speed, and you can see it here, that inside line offering a much shorter amount of distance to cover to this corner. Fernandez and Flomger both know that. And it will be Flomger remaining ahead. Fernandez, despite Harder going into the pits, will not pick up another position just yet, still in P5. Rasco and Frizza into the pit lane as well for their mandatory stop. So this is going to shake things up a little bit. Craig Dale into the pits. Darren Wicks right now door-to-door here. It's Dave Hasser, though. I'm not certain. I don't think this is for position. No, this may just be some backmarker tomfoolery. But it has been a little bit of back and forth action for everybody on the grid for the most part. As this race carries on, Flomger still ahead of Fernandez. Rasco, Frizza, Dale in the pits should be exiting here very soon. Rasco, Frizza getting that mandatory stop done. No, not Dale. It's Frizza. Dale actually out of the pits. Did not get the stop cleared. So, with these pit stops, you have to put on new tires. That's what's going to count as a served pit stop. Dale did not do that. He did not put on a fresh set of tires. So unfortunately, that pit stop doesn't count, which means he has to do it again. So all the time he just wasted in the pit lane is for naught, because he has to go do it again. So that is definitely going to be a very unfortunate tale for him. We've got Brooke, Davis, Sanchez, Dag into the pits. So Golzar, Loverik, your top three actually not serving their pit stops just yet. You see Chris Frizza there getting out of the way for Flomger and Fernandez. And has met up with another driver who is possibly a lap down. Flomger really doing what he can to defend from Fernandez. These two guys have very similar pace. in this race, but neither of them can really gain a lasting advantage. So we'll have to see Hayden Harder right now out into P11. Or sorry, yeah, P11, and then Clifford in P13, if it's correct. Yeah, it is. So your fastest lap owner back out on track. Actually up into P9 now. So we'll see where Clifford comes out. Maybe waiting for Golzar to pit. Maybe the undercut possibly working. Raworth getting ready to head out of the pit lane. It's Loverink into the pit lane, the first of the front runners to get these pit stops done and dusted. Landry's going to opt to stay out. Flomger dives into the pit lane. There's Craig Dale. He's got to do it all over again. Another 30 seconds for him in the pit lane. Definitely going to be hurting quite a lot. Harder right now, starting to navigate a little bit. Dave Hasser letting that's Frizza go through. And then just up ahead, it's a special little Porsche. Nice little mustache livery. I'm fairly certain. Oh, it's actually Darren Wicks, so not a back marker. So Darren Wicks in P10 for the amateur class, however, has not served his pit stop yet. So he'll have to get shuffled around the grid. You see Harder with the overtake. Probably one of the easiest overtakes of his life, although it's not done quite yet. Wicks on the inside here. And as I say that, he's just going to back out. He knows, he sees the color that is given to Harder's class. He knows he doesn't have the pace, but opting to stay out, very smart. So he's going to try to maybe open up a gap to his fellow amateur class drivers. Craig Dale's still in the pits, actually on the way out of the pits, so his pit stop is cleared. Brown picking up a 10-second penalty. I believe, yeah, that's for the incident on lap 1 that triggered our Simrigs safety car. So 10 seconds added on. Maybe the steward's waiting until afterwards to give the penalty. So for Brown, that's going to hurt a little bit. Golzar into the pit lane. Landry going to mirror that, and Fernandez going in. So we should be seeing the last of these pit stops coming through. Austin Carpenter is staying out, trying to maybe get a very good lap going. He's got a bit of air to work with. And we'll have to see just how much of a gap he can pull out. In P1 for the time being, Skaptura up into P2. Lutkis, you see how big these gaps are right now as he comes around. Not certain if he's going to go for the pit lane. Yes, he is. Deciding now is the time for a fresh set of rubber. 21.5 to go here. 16.5 on your pit window. Darren Wicks still staying out. And then I believe everybody else has gotten their pit stops sorted out. Yes, they have. Besides safety car, of course. But things are going to be getting a little bit hectic here as drivers come out. There's Fernandez. So he's going to come out behind Landry. Golzar right back out there. Clifford, despite having quite a lap, or quite a race right now, up into P5, is still got a bit of a ways to go to pick up Landry, or sorry, not Landry, Golzar. Maybe banking on someone getting caught up by some back markers. Look just there, you see Darren Wicks into the pit lane. So Austin Carpenter and Matteo Skaptura, the last two drivers who have yet to pit. And we're going to see where they come out after their pit stops are done, if they go in on this lap. Because that'll give Golzar, Loverink, and Clifford a chance to catch up. Carpenter here coming around Parabolica is not going to go in, so he's really trying to stretch out any advantage he can. Same with Skaptura. Don't know how well that's going to work, gents. If at all. Brian Rasco has lost a position here to Nate Lamelin as they go out of turn number 2, so probably a late move there from the BMW, but he's got a big old Bentley behind him. As much of a slipstream as the boat can muster, really trying to throw on the jets. The inside line is going to be Rasco's as they head down, and maybe a little bit of a shove there, having to go over the rumble strips. And will just hand that position back. He knows that the overtake was not clean, was not fair. And instead of getting a penalty, we'll have to just do it all again. The pace, though, definitely there for Rasco. Could take back that P18 in due time, but he's only got about 20 minutes to do that. Austin Carpenter getting around a back marker. That's Braden Thompson there in the 144 BMW. Currently, P7 in the amateur class. Oh, sorry, the Pro-Am class, rather. Skeptura does have bragging rights for Pro-Am, but they will get shuffled around as these pit stops come through, if they come through at some point today. Have to wait and see how that plays out. This has been quite the race, despite the organization that we have here in these sprint series races. We do see some carnage, and we did see that. And then after the restart, everyone got out there and running. And despite the rain from earlier, the track is absolutely perfect for all these drivers. Austin Carpenter now goes into the pit lane, so we'll see where he comes out. He's in P1, and Skeptura is gonna mirror that, go in. Golzar just now getting up to Ascari, but he should be able to take back P1. Loverink and Clifford as well pulling up to the chicane. Carpenter just about now gonna park it up. Oh, he's way up the pit lane. That's gonna be rough. So Golzar absolutely will take this first place back. It's 30 seconds at the very least for your pit stops, unless you want to maybe do some body repair, maybe some suspension brake changes, but it's an hour sprint race. You're not really going to be worrying about suspension or brakes. Damage, maybe. But there goes Golzar across the timing line. And he will be overtaking P1. Carpenter down to P2. Skeptura actually behind him. Loverink as well going to gain this position back. Same with Clifford. Landry going to take advantage and get a position back. Carpenter coming out here in what could possibly be P10, as we do see Pierce just sending it down the front straight and is going to have zero problem getting around Landry. Or sorry, Carpenter. Carpenter actually staying ahead of Brooke and Davis, so maintaining that top 10 finish. But he's still got a lot of time left, it'll feel like. Fernandez with Flomger. Ooh, Flomger trying to sell the inside dive. But Fernandez knows better. A little bit loose there out of the corner. Flomger losing that time he just gained. Fernandez still holding on right now to P5. Lap after lap, he's been doing everything he can to try to shake the competition, but nothing's worked. At the very least, he's sort of delayed it in the wide line there. Could bring Flomger in closer, harder. Also in the hunt. Flomger trying to get any sort of slipstream he can. These guys really waiting as long as possible for these gears. Trying to get as much time as they can. Flomger really throwing it over the inside there, almost losing it. And because of that, he is actually going to lose some time, a couple of tenths right now. The exit of Lesmo, too, could have done Fernandez in ultimately, but for the time being, it hasn't. It's worked out as Flomger got a little too ambitious. Unsettled the car just a bit. And almost lost. Ooh, we see Carpenter going very, very wide there at Parabolica, and that's going to give Tim Brook a chance to catch up. Not much of a slipstream, though. Not the best slipstream, that is. Behind him, of course, is Steve Davis. The battle for P10 starting to brew a little bit here. 15 minutes to go. Brook trying to sell the fake down the inside, but I don't think it's going to work out too well. Maybe a little bit of a straighter exit out of turn number 2, but Carpenter's got that one on lock. No problem at all for him. Fernandez, though, right now he's got Flomger, who is going to go around the outside and down the inside harder, getting an amazing launch out of this corner, out of this chicane. Fernandez is holding on by a thread to this P5, the inside. It's Flomger through Lesmo 1. And that is going to send him quite a ways outside. Is Harder going to maybe go for a move here? No, he's not. As they continue to do battle, Fernandez, he is every time just running it wider and wider. As much as he dares, Flomger finally getting in front, but the battle is not over yet. Harder working. He knows that if these two don't do too well, they could potentially give him 2 positions with absolutely no charge at all. Through Ascari we go. It's Flomger ahead. Fernandez throwing it over the inside corner. That's going to launch him out wide into the gravel. Harder is going to take advantage of this. The squeeze almost coming through here as we head down the back straight, and just behind them is John Steele. Possibly going to be able to pick up another position here, and Harder getting around Fernandez. Flomger using their little dispute to try to open up a gap, and that has brought John Steele right into the picture. Onto the front straight once more. John Steele P8, Flomger in P5, and then 6 and 7. Harder, Fernandez. They're not done yet here. Fernandez pulling to the outside. He's going to try to get that inside line for turn number 2. Harder maybe banking on getting the exit out of turn 1 before turn 2 as they go door to door there. And it's going to be the tap from Fernandez is going to put Harder out wide. Harder able to hold that McLaren down, albeit barely. And Steele will pull in closer. Fernandez, I don't know if that was the best move. Maybe he'll give it back, maybe he won't, who knows. But for right now, Harder probably with a little bit of fire in his eyes right now. Not too pleased about that move. Oh, Fernandez, I mean, he is just really trying to push a little too much out of this BMW, more than I think he can really reasonably handle. He's just out wide, seems like every single time we go either into the Lesmos or before the Lesmos. And oh, Hayden Harder is off the track. Hayden Harder, that is not what you want to do. We're going to roll this one back and just see what happens. So as we come down into the second Lesmo, he just loses the back end, just oversteers. There was absolutely no touch there from Steele, completely self-inflicted. And Hayden Harder, a disastrous moment down into P12. After such an amazing start, it has bit him. And he finds himself with a lot of work to do, or maybe perhaps just calling it there, and he's going to hold station until checkered flag. Right now we look back here, battle for P17. It's Lamlin and Rasco who continue to duel here. It seems like every few laps or so, they just cannot get enough of each other. Inside line for Lamlin, will use that to pull ahead. The front bumper a little scraped up. Perhaps going into the back end of Rasco a couple of times. Loverank in a lot of trouble, though. It's going to be a little bit of a wiggle there, trying to keep that Ferrari under control. The prancing horse, the charging bull, it's Clifford, it's Loverank. The battle for P2, Gulzar is a little too far up the road, I think, at this point, barring a mistake. These two may be settling for the last 2 positions on the podium. But Clifford has had such an amazing drive here, still with that fastest lap of 48.08. Last lap for Clifford was a 48.67. For Loverank, it's a 48.87, so 2 tenths between them. That is quite a huge chunk of time to take out when you look at just how good some of these drivers are. And Clifford, despite being Pro-Am, really is punching above his weight every single race. It's incredible stuff to watch. How much he's developed as a driver over these last few seasons. Carpenter also in trouble as Davis trying to catch up and get back into the top 10. Tim Brook has gotten around Carpenter at some point, probably off of an error, maybe a good move. Hayden Harder, though, despite his little excursion, has caught right up and is not done quite yet. Comes a Gulzar here getting around some back marker. Loverank on the inside. It's going to be Clifford down to turn number 1. Clifford last of the late breakers here. He is going to be outside for turn 2. Oh, he's looking for a little bit of a switchback, but it's covered off by Loverank beautifully. But this scrap is not done yet, and Clifford actually does get a better exit somehow out of the corner despite that block. and now picks up P number 2. Loverank, after sitting up front for so long, has to concede as Clifford on a charge. Clifford was P3 in first practice, but wasn't in the top 3 for quali. But what a drive he's had. And he only has another 9.5 to go here. It's going to be one of the longest 9.5s if I had to bet on it. Dave Hasser and Craig Dale. Man, Craig Dale, what an afternoon for him. He forgets to put on the tires. Doesn't get, I guess, the best qualifying, then, you know, forgets the tires, so has to do a pit stop again. A full minute in the pits at least for him. I mean, that is just absolutely unfortunate. So Dave Hasser looking to maybe take home the little ribbon that says, I wasn't last. Oh, in the background, is that Wilson? No, Wilson currently running extremely wide for some reason. Not quite certain who was in the background, though. It was one of the McLarens. John Steele with Thomas Pierce on the inside here. John Steele does have to, unfortunately, make it a P8 right now, but he will have the slipstream. So maybe it's all part of the plan for the number 29. But just how much of a slipstream boost is he going to get? And it appears to be quite a lot, actually, as Pierce ducking to the inside to try to defend down into turn 1. But the question is, how good of a drive is he going to get out of turn number 2 on the outside? Oh, almost into the rear right quarter panel there. And these two, again, just like every other driver, it seems like, that comes door to door out of turn 2, they're not done. They still carry this fight on as we head down into the second chicane. Oh, a little bit on the inside, too much for Pierce. Although does maintain a bit of an advantage. Steele's about halfway alongside as we head down into the turn. Later on the brakes, trying to use all that exit, all that space on the exit, and Steele retakes P7. Carpenter just behind them, actually. Still dealing with Davis, who is now dealing with Harder. Harder is really starting to reel in Davis. Last lap for the Australian, a 50.8 or 50.68, excuse me, and then a 49.65 for Harder. So these two have been quite different levels of speed. We see a 10-second penalty coming out here for Lamelin. It was an incident, a collision on lap 24. So that's going to get added on. That's going to bop him down a couple of places. And look at John Steele, despite the move, still having to defend. Still, unfortunately, giving the slipstream to Pierce. A couple of different lines. Pierce looking for a little bit inside-outside, and it might have worked out perfectly, actually, as he pulls in a lot closer than he was before. With that slipstream, he is going to pull out to the inside very, very early on. It's a drag race here as we head over the start-finish line once again for the 27th time. Down into turn 1, you can just see Steele there on the left side of the screen, and it's Pierce very, very late on the brakes here. Is it going to be door-to-door? No, Pierce actually getting the overtake done, but it's going to be Steele that reaggresses here and actually gets a much better exit and maintains P7 on the inside there, almost losing it. Pierce, though, knows his mistake, knows he's not done the slipstream. Again, Steele going to put him on the outside here. Really just giving him barely enough space to race cleanly. It's not the best exit there for Steele. These guys are not done. They've been battling since before this lap even started. They're still going. They're still banging. And that bump is actually going to put Steele out wide. And as I praise their battle's longevity, the flame is extinguished, and Pierce somehow pulling ahead. Steele perhaps thinking there was a little bit more room than was actually given. And, well, you saw what happened there. Just a little too wide on the outside. And meanwhile, that went on. Davis picks up a 5-second penalty for a collision on lap 26. So these penalties coming in late. He does have Harder behind. He knows that he can defend as much as he wants, but it's not going to matter. As long as Harder stays where he's at, as Harder's running wide there at the exit of Viscari. He knows that that position is going to be gone, although I don't think he'll be losing it to McAnulty, who's about 10 or so seconds beyond. So at the very least, losing one position. You got Darren Wicks here, letting one of the faster drivers, Landry, through. Landry in P4 right now. We have Lovrink in P3. Clifford has actually done an extremely good job here, pulling away from Lovrink. Slowly reeling in the Ferrari, and then once he gets around, just firing on apparently some more cylinders he didn't know he had, and pulled away. Still with the fastest lap, though. That 48.08 is 0.4 faster than Golzar's best, which is only a 48.48. Now, the last lap for Golzar was a 49.1. For Clifford, a 48.3. The problem, though, if we pull up the track map, Golzar, there is one car between Clifford and Golzar, and there's not enough time, I don't think, unless Golzar really trips up on himself. But, I mean, this is the man who has been at the front constantly. You saw his dominating performance at Coda, and here it is again at Monza as Harder picks up 10 seconds. That's going to be a collision on lap 4 very, very early in the race, and that penalty coming in extremely late. So he is probably not going to be all too happy about that. So Sanchez is actually the McLaren we saw earlier. I thought it might have had front-end damage. I was wrong. That was just the design of the livery that made it look like there was a bit of a popped hood there. But he is right behind McAnulty. This is going to be the battle for P13. Sanchez really trying to get some different lines, bouncing over those curbs as much time as he can get, but isn't close enough for a move. Flomger right now, P5, very good job trying to hunt down Landry, who is just now going through the first chicane, and Lovrink as well getting out of there. And you have Clifford, who might try to get around Spencer Brown up ahead. I don't think the blue flags are out. I don't think he's close enough for the blue flags to be signaled. Actually, as I said that, yes, there is. You see Golzar there going a little bit wide. Perhaps he knows that Clifford is chasing him down, that he does not have as much pace as he really thought, and really trying to push it as best he can. Eduardo Sanchez here. It's door-to-door out of turn number 2 on that inside line. He's going to be using the superior top end and acceleration of the McLaren that the Aston Martin just doesn't quite have, but he's not really getting the best run out of the corner. Through Curva Grande they go. It's still just about door-to-door. McAnulty later on the brakes, down into the chicane on the inside. There's a bump there, but not enough to spin him out, but it's enough to get him aside a little bit. So Sanchez remaining in P14, but he's got the inside line for the Lesmo. Messes up the corner, and he does put McAnulty into the jackknife position, but McAnulty able to give the position back. Or sorry, Sanchez able to get the position back, rather. So very good sportsmanship from Eduardo Sanchez. He knows that if he's going to overtake McAnulty, he's got to do it cleanly, but it is the final lap. Hamza Golzar getting around Kevin Parody. He's got Ronan Mendina up ahead, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. Jonathan Clifford, the run he's had, but it might not be enough to overtake, and there's Lovrink in the background, Landry as well, and Flomger just appearing in frame. Harder has 10 seconds, and he also has Steve Davis that he is just going to let through. They both have penalties. It's 10 seconds for Harder, 5 seconds for Davis. So even if Harder were to remain ahead of the Aussie, it would not be enough. And the position would still go back to Davis once the penalties are sorted out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a race we had. A very hectic start. Things settled down. A lot of penalties coming through later on. The stewards really doing a lot of work to figure out who's at fault the most for that lap 1 incident. Surprised. Normally we have we got a lot of dust in the background. So it was Babaletskos, I think, getting around somebody. What we have to do right now is Well, we have to look to this man. Hamza Golzar started on pole, got an amazing jump at the start, and just took that rear view mirror clean off. And has been in an absolutely commanding position start to finish. So around Parabolica for the 30th and last time, it's Hamza Golzar picking up his second win in a row here at Monza in the Porsche. What a race he has had. Jonathan Clifford booting the pylon into the stratosphere. Started P3, picked up P2 and the fastest lap. It's Lovrink on the podium as well, and then Landry and Flomger in P4 and 5. Fernandez, a very good P6 from him. Thomas Pierce up into P7. Jonathan Steele out of the final corner makes it 8. Brook is 9, and Carpenter is 10. Davis will get 11th. Harder could hold on to 12th depending on how long it takes McAnulty to get to the start-finish line. There may be just enough time. We'll have to actually keep this one locked at the moment. Sanchez as well behind. Could maybe get split up. But it has been a very interesting race here. So across the line, no! Harder's actually going to maintain P12. 13.5 seconds for McAnulty. It was not close enough. Dagan 15, Lameland 16, Rasco 17, Lutkis in 18 has gotten around Frizza at the last moment. So Lutkis in 18th, Frizza 19th. And it'll be Braden Thompson to round out the top 20. And then Skaptura. That is a very damaged front end, so not as much damage as I thought. And P21, Baba Let's-Gos. 316 Mercedes for TSC Racing. P22, Sam Raworth will be... Actually, the battle here for P24 is not going to be what I thought it was, although a little bit loose out of the corner. Thought for a moment maybe Ronan Mendina was going to lose that position, but Raworth will take home bragging rights for the amateur class, and Shiana Graham in the pit lane along with Andrew Wilson, so the game will be waiting for them to more or less cross the finish line. But what an evening we had here at Monza. It's been great stuff. We always know that Monza means chaos, and we saw that. Battles happening all over the place. These drivers coming home, so penalties will get sorted out. We'll see just what everything looks like at the end of it all. But Golzar, what a race for him. Continuing to show that he is a force to be reckoned with day in and day out. Golzar won the first race of the season in a good fashion. And then I don't believe he won race 2. No, he didn't. Did not win race 2. Won race 3, of course, with absolutely just no problems at all. He did win, I believe, the second race of race 3. Or, sorry. He won last week. Oh, man, my notes are all over the place. But that is going to do it. So we're going to take a look over at the timetables. So on top, your top 3, it's going to be Golzar, Clifford with the fastest lap, and Lovrink. And then for Pro-Am, it's going to be Clifford, of course, Davis, and McAnulty. So despite that 5-second penalty, Davis will hang on to P2 in the Pro-Am category. And then for the amateurs, Raworth, Wicks, and Dale. Parity just missing out there, a lap down at the end over Dale. So he will not be getting top 3 for the amateur class. Then, of course, Simrigs safety car. But it's been a very good evening here for a lot of these drivers. And, of course, all good things must come to an end. Real quick, of course, just a big thank you again to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 11 of the Sprint Series. I've already said what they're all about. Everything everything sim racing related, they've got you covered. 5% off for our patrons. Australia, New Zealand, you're already covered. The rest of us, we got to figure it out. But we are off next week. We will not be here for those of us in the States celebrating Thanksgiving, so hopefully you guys have a good one. All the good food with your loved ones. You know, don't eat all day and then stuff your face at night and then go to bed and wake up nice and late or early the next day. But that is going to do it for us. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the next race, it's going to be Silverstone. That means a nice hour-and-a-half endurance race for these drivers, so we'll see what they've got. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Hope you enjoyed the race. Again, apologies for the technical issues earlier on in the day with all of the servers. That's all sorted out now, of course, so we should be back up and ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself and everybody here at the OOR, we'd like to thank you so much for your continued support. For next week in Europe, you are going to be having a race, but for us in North America, you get a little bye week to work with, unless we've changed the schedule. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay beautiful, and let's try to keep turn one a little cleaner.